such a waste if we didn't. Hey guys, so we've just been in an interview in a different group with the fantastic Elizabeth Elenor, who is a very short friend in terms of short time, but has become a very dear friend as well. And we've had some amazing conversations, actually, haven't we, as well?
We have, yeah.
We've been in similar circles in terms of growth and business, and I really wanted to bring you on. I know we've already had a chat, to kind of pick your brain, as it were, a little bit about you and how you've got to where you are in your business. So just briefly tell us what it is that you do rather, in your business right now, and how it's different from where you were before.
Okay, so hi everyone, and thank you so much, Carmel, for having me on. So what I do now is I'm a spiritual mentor and facilitator, I suppose, of energy and vibration. I support women mainly, though I do work with the odd man every so often, to release their old story and any blocks, anything that's sort of holding them back to connecting with their higher self. So some people don't quite understand what connecting with your higher self is and means, and I support you going through that process, because it's actually not as hard as what some people think it is.
Cool.
Yeah, so
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you're in business at the moment, and your business, I know, but I'll ask you for the benefit of the audience, is flourishing and growing day by day.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah.
I basically started this part of my business in August, and it just went off. It was crazy. Some of the stuff that I do was just stuff that I just took for granted, and so I took the hat off basically and wasn't really doing anything with it. And then it was a business mentor that went, "Why aren't you doing that? People need you. There's people out there that are struggling with this sort of stuff, and you can easily help them." And so it just went crazy. I was absolutely shocked.
And it's interesting that you say that, and I just want to highlight it for a moment, is when you said the things I was doing were coming easily. And I found that a lot in business, that we have an unconscious competence of what we know. We've forgotten, it's like driving a car. It's like at first you're going mirror, gears, do I put it on the accelerator or the brake, or, and all of a sudden now we just drive. And it's like that we get that deep unconscious competence around what we do quite naturally. And one of my tips used to be, when I'd say to people, when you hear yourself say, "Doesn't everyone do that?" you kind of know that might be your innate skill.
Yes, that's right.
So that unconscious competence and the benefit of getting somebody else to see it and draw it out of you is phenomenal. But I just want to step you back a tiny bit when you said, and we'll just briefly touch on it. You said about connecting with your higher self, and people don't know that it's easier than you think. How would you describe that connection to higher self to somebody who knew nothing about it or was finding it hard?
Okay. So what does it feel like and look like?
Well, to somebody who was like, "Oh, I can't connect to my higher self. I don't even know what that is." How would you kind of describe that to them?
Yeah, because that's woo-woo language, right? Higher self.
Yeah. It is. And especially in business, and we're talking to more of a group of business owners now, and I'm not trying to bring it all woo-woo or whatever, but there's an element of a vibrational level within business, within life, within everything. But people tend to dismiss it because they have a perception it's woo-woo.
Exactly. One of the things that it took me a while to even go there, because I'm very grounded. I'm not really a woo-woo person. So the way I would describe it is actually feeling grounded, like you're in your body, that you have an inner knowing that you're on the right path. Right. So, even intuition is something people like, the tangible, what does that mean? So I can tell you the two different sides. So when when you're not connected to your higher self or your intuition, you find that life is a shit fight, for want of a better word. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah. Things tend to be blocking you in every turn. You're constantly doubting whether you should be doing this or that. Like, you know, the things that should be easy aren't. You know, like there's mistakes happen, accidents happen, you know, consequences happen that are out of your control. Like those sort of things are just constantly happening. You're making decisions based on prior stories or prior learnings, and nothing's working. Your business is really not going anywhere. You know, you're struggling. But when you're connected to something else, like, you know, I say my higher self, but it's basically your inner knowing. So when so when you're in that place of your inner knowing, things just sort of flow and happen, and like you feel really comfortable with where you're at. You sort of know where you're going. You're aware that the visions that you're having and the thoughts that you're having are going to be created if you just keep going along the path. You sort of get inspired by, you have thoughts, like downloads of thoughts that go, that's a great idea, I'm going to follow that one. You know, you don't seem to have those accidents and those mistakes happen in your life. Like everything just sort of flows.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. So you mentioned that you had taken that hat off and you've put it back on because, and I agree with you totally, working with a mentor or a coach and sometimes both at the same time for different reasons is one of the best things I've ever done. And I know you said that was yours.
Especially if you want to accelerate, right? If you want to move forward.
Sure.
Yeah.
They've already, you know, been through the steps you have. But in order for you to put that hat back on, I'm really curious about how did you decide, choose, uncover who your target market was for that?
Well, a mentor really helped me brainstorm and work it out. Somewhat, you know, like writing it down, discovering what people need. It was really the start of my Facebook group that, because I was like, oh, will I go there or won't I? And as soon as I put the Facebook group together, Women of Light, it exploded. I'm like, oh, well, obviously people need this. So coming to the understanding of who my target market is, I would say listening to two things, actually. Listening to what people are asking and what people need, like being an observer of what's going on out there. And also the fact that hopefully you're in a business that you're passionate about, that there's been a drive, there's been a desire in you to start the particular business you're in. You're not in it just for money. You know, there's something that you can see the value of, that you've got a intuitive connection to, and because of that, it tends to draw those people to you. So energetically, it happens as well. You're attracting your target.
So if you were to describe, for example, your ideal client in brief couple of sentences, do you know an age group? When you say listening, like how do you hone that listening to make sure it's something you can help with? Because, you know, we can listen to everyone, look at the news, you can listen to everyone whinging about it, but how do you hone and recognize it to make sure it's something you can help them with? What is it you do around that?
Well, I would say, like, listening from your life. You know, I tend to attract women mainly. And like I could say that my target market is somewhere between 5 and 10 years older and younger than I am. There's a bit of a range.
Yeah.
A lot of them are just sick of the pattern and the old stories and not being able to get anywhere. A lot of them are anxious, have anxiety, depression, can't work out how to listen to themselves because I've got a thing called the 3 powers, right? Power, powerless, and empowerment. And often they're stuck in that powerless trap where, you know, they don't know how to listen to themselves. So in saying that, when I say you attract your market, I don't have people around me talking about the stock exchange or financial, you know, advice or technical stuff. Like I don't have any of those things in my life because I don't tend to attract those people.
Because it's not your market.
It's not my market.
Look, do you think, and we'll just briefly on this because I have a few more questions I want to ask you. Do you think that your experience of your own growth are the kind of people that you're attracting? So, you know, younger versions of you in terms of on an emotional level or whatever. So you've been through it, if you like. You've had maybe anxiety, you've had whatever. And quite often I found it's a mirror to where you were at some time.
Absolutely. And that's why you can have like as we were talking about before, having a mentor that's already like has experienced what you experienced and they're already, you know, 5 or 10 rungs up the ladder than you are. It's the same for us, right?
Yes, I think so. Absolutely. So would it be fair to say that predominantly your product, other than your other business, which I know is oils, which I use oils too, I love them, but it's an intangible.
It is an intangible.
It's an intangible.
Yeah.
So although we know in marketing terms that the higher the intangible is actually the higher people will pay. That said,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, the higher, absolutely. You know that.
No.
Yeah, the higher the intangible, the more people will pay for it because it's an elusive. You can't put it in a wheelbarrow and walk away with it. You know, if somebody says increase your numbers somewhere, it's one thing, or here's a product is another. But it's like a feeling, it's something you can't describe. So it's very intangible. How do you go about specifically marketing that as an intangible product?
In the marketing side of things, my thing is supporting people, not supporting. I would say you've got to relate to where people are at the moment, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't say to them, hey, let's connect with your higher self and let your life flow, because like they're what does that mean and what does that look like?
Yeah.
So you want to be talking to them. A lot of people are in pain, so you want to be talking to them, you know, have you got anxiety? Are you stuck? Are you finding that life isn't running the way you felt it would be? You know, like, so, you know, it's sort of along the lines of self-development in a way, but questioning people, giving questions. Questions is a really great way of marketing because when you ask a question, we unconsciously find ourselves relating or not relating or having an answer in our head in some way. So asking questions is a great way because then, you know, you're ticking the, yeah, me too. Oh yeah, that relates to me. And you're more likely to start reading the rest of like what the results are if you were to work with me, for example.
Yeah. So in this kind of arena, we talk a lot about copywriting, images, videos, marketing. So how important has copywriting, for example, you know, what you write, how you write it, and all of that being in the growth of your business?
It's been huge. And still it's, you know, you're talking to someone that didn't know what copywriting meant.
So many people think it's just copywriting that picture. It's like, no.
Yes. And so, like, I've had to learn so much because business is not a natural state for me. You know, I did a business training the other day and then had to jump out and do one of my coaching calls for a 12-week online program I'm doing, and the like getting my head to go from business to intuition, like it was almost impossible, like changing that vibration and coming into the feminine side from the masculine side. It was quite challenging. But copyright is something that I'm still working on, and I can see the importance. It's huge. It's huge. How do you get someone to read the first sentence and then start reading the second and the third, to engage them enough that they want to keep hearing what you've got to say is a massive skill set that I'm still excited about learning more and more about.
Yeah. And look, and there's a structure behind it. That was one of the things that absolutely blew my mind when I first started learning about copywriting or anything like that. And I've done a lot of learning around it now. That is structure. And I'm a bit of I use my intuition, I'm guessing, a lot, because I'll go brain dump and I'll write stuff. But having a structure beside it that I can now go, okay, I've written that and that's kind of where I want to take them. How can I fit that in the structure? It has been phenomenal. Absolutely just changes everything, because I don't have to, and I like the way you said the masculine and feminine, because it's two different sides of our brain trying to write something and fit it into a structure as we're writing. It just doesn't work. And it's the same. So many people get stuck on the headline of something. But true copywriters can do up to 200 headlines before they get the right one. But just throw something there and write the rest of it. And I've often found it's the very end, I'll actually come to what should have been the headline.
At the start, yeah.
So we actually have one of the templates we use for videos is called the blot, which is bottom line on top. And it's exactly that. Tell them the bloody promise right up here that keeps them reading.
Yes.
Yeah.
Headlines make a huge difference, don't they? In Facebook Lives and all sorts of,
But I love what you said. I think it might have been in the other interview. I'm not sure. This one, you said something about, somebody can give me a sentence and I can expand and do a Facebook Live on it. But it's the same with headlines. If you see headlines that are in newspapers, magazines, things like that, think about how you can use that even in an article, not the exact same headline. I'm not talking about plagiarism, but tweaking it a little bit that you can actually use it. Or you'll see a post that really resonates with you and you go, wow, I can use part of that and repost it in mine.
I was listening quite a few weeks ago now to a podcast, and I can't even remember what the podcast was about now, but in the podcast, the one of the, maybe the guest speaker said something about grieving, and I got on straight away and did a 20-minute Facebook Live about grieving.
Wow.
And just because the insight of, I've got this thing about, the life-death cycle and how, you can be moving from a child crawling to a child walking. Well, there's a life-death cycle in that, there's so many parts that people don't realize where there's a cycle, and in each cycle there's the process of letting go of the previous cycle,
Absolutely.
And so you can get content from so many different things, right? But you're right,
I think when you have an openness for it, when you have an awareness of it, you, I think again in the previous interview we're talking about observing your own behavior, because and even observing some of our old habits, because habit has three parts. Like there's a cue, something triggers it, whether it's eating a bar of chocolate or whatever. I found myself being triggered to some really old habits when COVID hit. It was like comfort, somebody telling me what to do. Oh, just give me food. It was like chocolate, food, let me feel great. I think I went out and I bought everything I would ever want to buy because, somebody was telling me I couldn't do it. And I ate it all in 24 or 48 hours. It was ridiculous.
Well, it's not only things like that too. Like I'm usually up on the Central Coast. Right now I'm in Sydney at, in a house that I grew up in. And
Wow.
and I've been aware of watching old patterns and habits come up because I'm in
Yes.
the same house.
Yes. So powerful. One of the things,
Crazy.
and this may happen with you, that I used to notice when I go to Ireland, especially when my parents were still alive, because my parents, bless their cotton socks, have both passed now. They were married for 65 years
Oh,
and they
wow.
lived in the same house that we were all born in.
Yeah.
After the extension, it was 57 square meters. So a tiny house with 5 daughters. But every time I go back, I'm the youngest. Every single time, I would become the youngest daughter. I
Yes.
would become the divil that would stir the shit. I would become that little, person that would say the things nobody else would say, and all of this stuff. And I could feel myself doing it, but as I grew and learned more and started observing mine, it was hysterical in some cases.
Yes,
As a
that's right.
40-something-year-old woman going, ah!
Yeah, exactly. And so the same with our business, right?
Yes.
We can find ourselves in habits and patterns that actually aren't serving your business.
Yeah.
So bringing that awareness, that self-awareness of what am I doing that needs to be shifted into something new.
Yes. Because we come into business predominantly from an employee frame of mind.
Yeah.
And all we do is we think we've come into being an employer. Well, we actually haven't. 9 times out of 10, we're still an employee, but the employer doesn't know how to bloody make money anymore.
Yeah,
and it's a whole different skill set to learn that we're not taught in school, for example. We're not naturally taught it. And that's why, as you've mentioned before, working with a mentor, somebody that has done that, it's life-changing.
It's huge.
And people will say to me all the time, oh, but I can't afford it, I can't do it. I go, that's cool, that's your journey, but I can't afford not to.
Yes.
And that's
true.
a different frame around it.
Yeah. Pushing yourself out of your comfort zone will get you to success so much quicker.
What is what is the hardest question somebody has ever asked you within a business sense? Other than this one, of course.
I would say this is up there. What is one of the hardest questions? I suppose someone asked me on a Instagram interview the other day what my clients usually come to me with, and even though I've got a target market, like a specific who I work with, there's a really big range of people that come to me from, massive anxiety, depression, relationship breakdowns, not being able to get rid of old patterns from their childhood, just wanting to find spirituality, understand themselves more. There's such a big range of what people come to me for, that it was a bit challenging to sort of pinpoint. So I would say that's the biggest one for my business. In saying that, I always stop and pause and know that there'll be an answer come.
I would quite often
that was the hardest question.
Isn't it interesting? Because you would think that knowing your target market, it would almost be easy. Because look, it takes a while. I know I have a document, an avatar document, or ideal client, that I add to as I hear certain things all the time. So like that, I could probably, mention what it is that people come to me for. But it comes with time and that awareness and observing, I guess. I can't believe that we're nearly coming up to the time. I've one more question for you. If you were to start all over again in business, what would you do differently?
I would have got a mentor earlier, for sure. Someone that, because I'm really coachable. I am like, one of my biggest strengths is that I'm quite innocent. And so I'm very, very obliging when someone tells me what to do, because if
Right.
someone's got what I want, or, has been down the path that I know I'm traveling, then I'm really open to suggestions and tips and skills and tools and all that sort of stuff. I think that would have been the biggest thing, is to get someone sooner, instead of thinking, because there's very much there's a real fine line. Sorry, not a fine line. There's a real line between people that think that they can do it all for free. They get all the training and everything that they need online, with all the free products and all the free webinars and all the free YouTubes and all that sort of stuff, because people give value and they add a lot of content, right? But like you give a lot of content out. I know that my foundational stuff of the 3 powers, power, powerless, and empowerment, I talk about all the time.
Yeah.
But it's not until you get someone that, like, hey, I want to learn that for me. I'm like, okay, let's do 5 sessions and really nut it out with them, hold them accountable, give them exercises specific to them. Do people really get it?
Yeah. Oh, look, you're so right. You've touched on that. Like, we can go and learn anything. I'm a YouTuber in terms of, I love checking out YouTube, because I found out so much about editing videos before I started to learn it properly. When I got stuck was looking at, but it's a longer way around it. And you don't know who to trust till you've gone down that rabbit hole and come back up and down that. So yes, you can do it, but I think you're right. Having somebody that's already gone through that you can know and trust and take you there, is just hands down something that is to be admired and done.
Yeah.
Cool.
It depends. Like, do you want to, the questions people should be asking themselves is, where do I want to be in 5 years?
Yeah.
Are my dreams and goals something that I really feel is achievable? Because they are, unless they're like, I want to be a millionaire in 6 months, like, and that could be possible. Like,
I want to, if I want to be a doctor, it won't happen in 6 months. But
that's exactly right. So, but the challenge with most people is that they've got this desire of, I want to be A, B, and C in the future, but they keep seeing it as the future instead of making this step now. I'm going to do one step. I'm going to do a Facebook Live. Like, and so see that something's doable and start taking the actions towards that.
Absolutely.
And are you going to, in 5 years' time, get to where you want to be? Or are you going to keep thinking about how I should be doing this and I should be doing that? Or I want to do this, I want to do that, and not actually taking any steps towards it.
I love that point. And even more than that is the fact of reflecting, hang on, this is how far I have come. I think people forget that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I'm getting at the moment a lot of memories coming up on Facebook, where I was in Italy at this time last year, and I have been in Greece and Ireland. It feels like a lifetime ago, and yet it feels like it was just yesterday. But it's kind of bringing up, oh my God, what I fitted into 1 year is just phenomenal. And we need to remember to do that. Like, put it in your diary, guys, to actually reflect. So we're coming to the end again. Oh my goodness. Can you let people know where or how they can contact you, should they so wish, my dear?
So people can contact me on social media. So through, my name comes up here, Elizabeth Elenor. I've got a biz page, Elizabeth Elenor, the Spiritual Warrior, and my Facebook group is Women of Light.
Beautiful.
So if you're a man, you can't be on Women of Light, but you can still contact me and find out a little bit more if you want to. So.
Cool. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. And I got to talk to you even more myself. I know we talk on occasion anyway, but sometimes we miss each other. So I'm so humbled that you said yes and that we could have these chats with you. So thank you so much for being on the call with me.
And thank you so much, Carmel, because you add so much value to your groups and share so much content, and it's been a real pleasure having these. Like, usually people talk to me about spiritual stuff, so it's been a real pleasure to be able to share the business side of things as well.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
That's the important stuff too.
It is. Yeah.
My pleasure. Okay, so it's bye for me.
Take care. See you, everyone.